with you. We're getting set up.
We're on.
Okay, we're on. Good morning, everyone. And every day we rise is a great day to be alive. And the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads presents Portsmouth Coffee Talks morning show. And my name is James Wooten, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Leah Drake-Stitt and Thomas the Colonel Chapman.
Good morning.
Good morning, co-host.
Good morning, yes.
Morning.
Yes.
And I was talking to Leah earlier. Leah is the busiest person in the city of Portsmouth. I don't know how she does it, but I don't think she can. If she sat down, like a shark that swims in the water, if they slow down, they won't make it. They have to keep
Won't
moving.
make it to the end.
She's like that, but we appreciate her getting up and being here with us every Monday morning, as well as the Colonel with his star on his hat. You know, when he wears his hat, that means we had a victory. So. So we had a victory, and I like to mention too. I see Norcom, our high school. They fell this Friday, or was it Thursday? No, Friday.
Friday night.
In the second game of the playoffs. They won the first playoff game, but they had a great season, and we're looking for big and better things next season.
Exactly.
As we have a new coach there, and he's really energizing those players and getting back to the old Norcom spirit. Also,
and James, we have to congratulate the Churchland Truckers as well.
Oh, okay.
They made it to the second game of their playoff as well. So we congratulate them as well.
Yeah.
Don't forget Western Branch.
Western Branch.
I'm sorry, Western Branch. We forget about Chesapeake. We forget about Chesapeake, don't we?
Yes.
The national team, Oscar Smith, who has been taking care of everybody. So we'll be watching Western Branch, his alma mater, and see what they do. And the last thing is the Virginia Union. We failed yesterday against Wingate. I mean, not yesterday, Saturday against Wingate. We couldn't get anything started, but had a great season, and also looking for more from them next year, you know, as we go into basketball and look to take people down in basketball in the women's and men. So anyway, we have a special guest with us today and this morning. And Coach, say your name so I won't mess it up.
Oh, turn your mic on.
Mine.
Okay.
Closer.
Closer. No, we're not hearing you.
Barvenia? Hello.
Okay, we
can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. It's Barvenia Wooten.
Barvenia Wooten, and you know, Barvenia is here. She's you see, I have my Virginia Union hat on, and you know, and we're here with the Colonel is a graduate of Norfolk State and Hampton, and Leah is a graduate of Norfolk State.
Hold the green and gold.
Hold the green and gold. And later on, we'll talk about she played against Norfolk State, so we'll talk about that. But anyway, she's here, and she's a grad of Virginia Union, a member of the Hall of Fame as a Lady Panther of Virginia Union, and 1983 National Basketball Champ. First team ever to win 2 CIAA back-to-back championships, 1981, 1982, and the first HBCU to win a national title. Didn't know that. And played professionally for 15 years and coached at the collegiate level for the last 20 years. And now in 2020 launched a professional semi-pro basketball women's team called the Richmond Roadrunners. And she is the coach of that team and the CEO. Am I correct there? Uh-oh.
We keep losing you, Barvenia.
Losing your sound.
You're on mute now.
On mute.
Yeah, you're on mute. Okay, you're off mute, but we still can't hear you for some reason.
Your sound went out.
Okay.
I apologize. Let me get my Bluetooth.
Okay.
Beautiful picture.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you, but can't see you now. But
oh, you can hear me, but you can't see me?
Exactly.
Well, your still picture is up there. Okay, and when you come back on camera, your voice goes away. Okay. All right, then we're waiting for Coach Wooten to get her sound back
It's
up.
Monday. It's Monday.
It's Monday.
It's Monday. Everything happens on Monday.
But while we waiting for her to come up, we're on the countdown until 2 of the 4 horsemen are out of office. And I need to add that in. We're waiting on them to leave to see what kind of damage they're going to do to the city before they leave.
Okay, and since you said that, go ahead and give your disclaimer.
Yes, so the views stated on this program are the host and the guest and nobody else. So hopefully we can stay out of Facebook jail because we have to tone it down because they're looking at everybody.
They are indeed.
Okay,
Yes.
Coach, is your sound up again? Yep, we still can't hear you. No.
We had great sound before we went on the air. And
yeah, before we went on the air.
Go back to still picture and then go back to still picture and then you'll get your volume and we'll just do audio.
Okay, and we're waiting for her to get her sound up. We're on the radio, so we don't want to have a lot of dead
Hello?
air.
Hello?
Okay, we hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Okay. All right. We're good. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Let me start off by saying this before, and we want to talk a little bit about your basketball playing career, and your coaching career, and then we want to get into the WABA, and then we want to talk about your books that you have out there. So we have all those lined up. But I want to just tell this little story. When I was at Union, they had a freshman basketball team, men's basketball team, which I was on, and didn't have girls basketball at that time. And right after, a few years after that, that was when Coach Tricky Tom started, looking into having a girls basketball team there. So by the time you got there in '79, I think that was your freshman year, they had the basketball team. Talk a little bit about how you got there, and you coming from Cincinnati to Richmond, Virginia, and one thing about Cincinnati, I noticed that Union recruited a lot of basketball players out of there, Charles Oakley being one of them, not Cincinnati, but Ohio. And Charles Oakley, anybody knows him and his pro career, he started at Union. So what was it about Cincinnati and basketball, and what intrigued you about Virginia Union coming all that way? Because I know you got other scholarships, other offers to play.
Yeah, it was interesting because one of my friends at Hughes High School is where I attended in Cincinnati, Ohio. He had told me about the HBCUs down there, and I didn't know a lot about the HBCUs, even though we had Central State and Wilberforce College up in Cincinnati area. And then I met actually, I call him my mentor over at the University of Cincinnati because that's who really wanted me to come and play. But I didn't want to stay home. And so, my friend at Hughes High School said, well, I'm going to call the coach down at Virginia Union. And I was like, I don't know who he is. And make a long story short, he and the other assistant coach, Red, came up to watch us play when we made it to the AAA girls basketball tournament up in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where I was deemed the Ohio Pro-Am Player of the Year. And my sights was on going to larger schools, as you mentioned it before. And because I didn't know about the HBCUs, I says, well, I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at it and let me go down and see. So the Tricky Tom Harris came up, watched my homegirl, Lisa Smith, and I play, and he brought the both of us down. This was like my first flight out of Cincinnati, my first plane ride. I was nervous. I don't think I did well on the airplane, wasn't used to what they call the air pockets and the turbulence, et cetera. And I got down there to Virginia Union. And when I walked onto the campus, I was like, oh no, I'm not coming back here. My high school is better than this. I can't see myself coming here. So I met a football player that I ironically married one, but we saw him on the campus and we toured us around the campus. And he said, I tell you what, he gave me two advice. He gave me advice twice. He said, number one, if you want to be with your people, come down here and come to Virginia Union. And at that time, mind you all, I think I had become this little militant girl. I felt like I was coming out of Cincinnati. I wanted to go do great things for my own community. And then he said, you can also be a big fish in a little pond. And I was like, oh, that sounds intriguing. And I said, well, I don't still think I'm going to come down here. And my homegirl, Lisa Smith, said, well, what you going to do? Because I want to go with you. So when I got back home, I talked to my mom, and Tricky Tom, little did I know, had already been in her head. He had already told her that he was going to take care of me, that it didn't mind, because I was really focused on my academics. I had all these dreams and things that I wanted to do. And he told my mom, he said, I'm going to make sure that she does well at Virginia Union. And so 2 weeks later, I made my decision to come to Virginia Union, and it's a decision that I will never regret.
Hey, it's two things, Coach, I want to mention before the other two co-hosts get in there. One of the things is that, well, one thing, you're a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and you were also the homecoming queen your senior year. And talk about that national championship team. I remember following you all back there during your whole time. You were that team was winning CIAA championships. And one of the great things that they reported, which was I liked, was that most of the girls on that team were honor students, and they made a point to mention that you all were honor students as well as champions. But one of the things, and you mentioned Tricky Tom Harris, and one of the things that one of probably the bittersweet moments that you all had as a team was that game that I don't know if it was a CIAA championship or the national championship. I think it was CIAA championship game.
Yes.
And Tricky Tom Harris was the coach, and he got ill during the game and before halftime. And you all halftime didn't know what was going on, if he had made it or was going on. But talk about that experience y'all had to go through something like that at a championship game, and your coach falls out, off the bench, pretty much.
Well, I will always be grateful and thankful for the legendary Tricky Tom Harris. He was like a father figure to all of us, and he was a great recruiter. The players that he got coming to Virginia Union during my time was just remarkable. I know all these young ladies could have gone and played Division I basketball. But because of his personality and who he was, and I believe he always led with the fact that he wanted to build a dynasty, a women's basketball program at Virginia Union. And so the caliber of ball players that he recruited, as you mentioned, were both committed not only to basketball, but to their academics. And I remember him bringing in a young lady from Dayton, Ohio. And I was like, how did you get Dee Dee Sharon Nares? Because this young lady could play. I'm telling you, this girl had, a vertical out of this world. And I remember standing on the free throw line, and before I knew it, she had already grabbed the rebound and she was putting it back. And so players like that coming out from the DC area, Maria Nicholson, Paris McWhirter, I could go on and name those phenomenal players that came to play with us at Virginia Union. And so by the time my sophomore year came around, we started to dominate. We had a cohesiveness that was unreal. We had a lot of pride and love for the game. And it wasn't just about winning the championships. This is about playing for Tricky Tom Harris. And so by the end of our sophomore year, we had already made a name for ourselves. And so going into my junior year is where we ended up back at the CIAA for the second championship. We were playing against Norfolk State. Matter of fact, we had beat them the year previous. And then there we were again, back with Norfolk State.
You don't have to emphasize it.
All right, Leah, y'all. But let me tell you, you had a couple of phenomenal players. One player I remember on that team was Norma Jean Knight.
Yes.
I mean, that young lady was one heck of a ball player. I mean, we just knew we always had to be prepared for her. And I know it was a great camaraderie between Norfolk State.
Right.
And so there we were right before the halftime of the game. And I remember just all caught up in the game. And then all of a sudden, everything just went silent because you heard the stomp. And let me just say, prior to that, Coach Tricky Tom had been in and out of the hospital. He had been sick. He had been dealing with some things. And Next thing I know, the whole game just stopped. And, my teammate, Maria Nicholson, was like, Barvenia. She said, whoa, what's going on? And so all of our attention, got directed to the bench, to the sideline. And then that's when we realized that something had happened to Tricky Tom Harris. And then they, that half ended, they ushered us into the locker room. And, we had our moment. They gave us our moment to kind of process what was going on. And they said, well, he had fallen. They didn't know if he had had a heart attack, what the situation was, but they would let us know. And so we were sitting there and with our coach at that time, which was, I'm trying to remember, Lou Hearn. Lou Hearn was working with us at that particular time. And he says, well, you all talk about what you want to do. And so we got together and we all agreed, with our point guard, Maria Nicholson, and with Eunice Johnson. And we just basically said, hey, we're going to go ahead and play. Tricky Tom Harris would have wanted to play. And I will always say to this day, and I talked about it in my book, we were up by 1 point at that moment, and we end up beating Norfolk State by 1 point at the end of that game.
Wow. Meant to be.
It was meant to be, but look, but fast forward, my senior year, guess who we were playing again?
Norfolk State.
To see that. And guess what? They beat us by 1 point. But let me just tell the story real quick. And I tell my ball players all the time, do not get close to the shooter. And Vita Williams, our powerful center out of New York, she went up to contest the shot and got called for the foul. And we were up by 1 point.
Wow.
And the young lady, I think it was Deborah, if I remember, because I think she coached at Norfolk State, Leah. And she sank both of her free throws and they won it. And we remember just going by, shaking their hands because we had a good camaraderie with them, right?
Yes.
So we went by shaking their hands. So we was like, we don't worry about it. Y'all can have the CIAA because we gonna go get the NCAA. And we were just saying that, because we had made it out of the regionals my junior year. And so there we were. And we got, of course, we got the bid to go on. And there we were, just game after game after game. And prior to that time, I just want to say this little fun fact. We enjoyed scoring, close to 100 points a game.
Wow.
We just enjoyed it because remember during that time, the scoreboard only had a double digit.
Right.
So once you got to 99, it flipped back to 0-0.
That's right.
So we would jokingly say, okay, who's going to hit the next jumper? You wanted the ball in your hand on the next layup because you wanted to be the one that turned it double
turn that
digits.
clock over.
Turn it over. So, and we did. And our journey to the NCAA was remarkable. It was like a fairy tale come true. And I won't ever forget that. And we, of course, everything was dedicated to the Tricky Tom Harris because he was instrumental in putting that team together.
How do we get to these names Tricky? Because when we had a Tricky Dick, y'all had Tricky Tom Harris. Where did this Tricky come from?
Well, you know why they called him Tricky? Because he was known for tricking people, even myself.
Okay.
He would just tell you about all these great, wonderful things that were going on. And I guess he felt like once you got to the campus, and during that time, the 70s and 80s, it was a marvelous time for African-American Black to go to college. That's what we were talking about. That was the thing. Who's going to college? You're going to make it to college. And so when you got there, that camaraderie, that unity, that love, and Tricky, he tricked a lot of players. Let me just tell you. He would just tell them, well, we're going to take you to this big fancy restaurant. And then you get there, he's going to take you to the Golden Corral or to, what was that, Piccadilly's? Y'all would know this one.
Piccadilly's, yes.
Piccadilly's, yeah. So that's what I know about him. He was just tricky, but just he and his wife, they were just beautiful people. I will always remember them.
He always, when I came there, he had that name of Tricky, but I think that started back during the days when he was playing basketball, his style or something like that. I'm not really sure, but you're right. He would trick players into getting there, and very few players after they got there left, even though they know, oh, he got me. But then the campus grabbed him. So
the campus definitely grabbed it. Right. I as a freshman, I remember sitting at the dorm. I was looking out the window of the dormitory, and the football team was coming across the campus with that old raggedy white and blue bus. I'll never forget it. But just the pride, they were hollering off out of the windows because I'm sure they had won the ball game. Then the grease came stepping onto the yard. And I was like, you're right, James and Slim. I was like, wow, I love this. I don't even want to go back home. This is something I've never experienced before. And being in the Midwest, I grew up in different cultures and different communities. So I had the best of both worlds. But the opportunity just to be amongst my own and be affirmed in my skin and feel good about who I was, that was one of the major reasons that I enjoyed being at Virginia Union, or just being in the CIAA, being a part of the HBCUs.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that was a great experience for all the HBCUs back then. Anybody you talk to that went to one of the HBCUs throughout the country will have that same experience, once they get there. I know it was like that at Norfolk State, the same thing.
Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
Now tell me this now. You have a team now,
Yes.
and where are you recruiting your young ladies from?
Leah, that's an excellent question. I'm always thankful for the relationships that I've built over time, not only being a basketball player, but also playing in the professional level, going to the Final Fours, getting out into the communities, doing, AAU programs. And so because of the relationships that I built with a lot of people over these last 30 plus years, what I've been able to do is to build off of that. And so when people found out that I was having a pro team, then the word kind of spread it. And so I'm fortunate that actually one of my players, I have 4 Virginia Union players on my team. Now, one of the young ladies, Ashley Freeman, was my standout ball player when I coached at Virginia Union. And matter of fact, she ended up breaking my scoring record because I was the second leading scorer in the history of Virginia Union. Ashley Freeman came in and took over. Now, I always add this little part. We didn't have the 3-point line. So we couldn't get 3 points for our jumpers. We only got 2, right? Oh, you got a 2-point play. You got a 3-point play by making a layup. And so with that being said, and then I would start putting out flyers, using social media to post it out there that we're having tryouts. And it's amazing because some of those players came back to me full circle. I remember trying to recruit 2 young ladies that went on to play Division I when I was coaching either at Virginia Union or at Prince George's Community College, and being in the game as long as I have, because of that relationship that I built, I was able to bring those players. And then some of my players tell their friends as well. And so we've got players as far as Charlottesville, Virginia. And matter of fact, one young lady, we were happy about it. She's got a contract to go over to Israel. Emily Mapoon, she came out of the University of Virginia. And then we have a couple of young ladies up north, in Fredericksburg. Then my daughter, Vicki Collier, a standout player at Old Dominion University, and played for me 1 year to help me win that Northern title when I was at Virginia Union. She's on my team. And then I have a few other young ladies that are right down in the Petersburg area. So they're just right in, I guess, maybe say no more than a 2-hour radius, just because of the travel and time for practice and for games.
So how large is that league?
Well, the first year I got into, I was excited. The WABA, the Women's American Basketball Association, we're part of the sister to the Men's ABA. The first year I got in there, we had 32 teams. Now, last year we ended up, she streamed it down to 21 teams. We had 22 teams in the league last year.
Very good.
And so they're all over. So we got a couple of teams got several teams in the Midwest. Teams out of Atlanta, Georgia, a couple teams out of there. We got teams out of South Carolina and North Carolina as well.
And so, of course, the WNBA look at your girls to see who they could bring up to that league, to that level. Am I correct?
Well, that's the relationship that we're building. The league, Marcia Blount is the commissioner of the league. And what we basically do is we gather, with the games, we're able to collect the stats. And then, of course, our games are live streamed. You can go to watch the games on YouTube. And so that data that we have, we can send it on to the WNBA. And a lot of the coaches that are coaching in the WABA, we have relationships with the WNBA coaches.
Okay, very good. Very good. Colonel?
Yeah, you know what? And congratulations on all of your success over the years.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I like, actually, I love how you talked about when you go to an HBCU school and versus a PWI. I am struck by everybody that talks about it is that we always stress academics. And I'm struck by, and I use in this connotation when I look at the news coming out of Georgia, where Herschel is running down there, and some of his classmates are saying he never went to class, and people have taken tests for him. And I look at him speaking, and I see why he never went to class.
It's evident. It's evident he didn't go to class.
He didn't go to class, never had, and they just kept him academically eligible, and says, you just stay away from the classroom because somebody will discover that you're completely, that you shouldn't be here. And so why is he going to be that close to Raphael in a runoff escapes me, other than
We know why. We know why.
We know why.
We know why.
So
we know
yeah.
why, Leah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
But I wanted to ask you on the other end, the Confederate Party, you being in the collegiate area, the Confederate Party wants to get rid of Title IX. And can you kind of address what Title IX has done for women in women's sports?
Coach, before you answer that, we have to leave the radio at 7, and let me close that out, and then you can continue to answer your question, and we'll be on Facebook Live. We want to thank all the listeners on WGPL 1350 AM for listening this morning, and please join us next Monday as we continue our shows, our intriguing and informative shows. So thank you again. We appreciate you, and God bless you. And for those on Facebook Live, please continue to listen as we are here with our special guest. Okay, Coach Wooten, you can go ahead and answer that question.
Okay, well, that's an excellent question, Colonel.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just going back real quick to Cincinnati, Ohio, and just growing up in the last community I was in, what they call the ghetto communities. And that's always a love there. And I remember seeing a lot of the young men, the boys in the community playing basketball, getting these scholarships to go to these D1 schools. And the next year they would be back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, seeing why. I was like, wow, at that particular time, and I still think it's happening, a lot of our athletes are being taken advantage of because of their athleticism, right? And they don't give them the academic and the support that they need, because only their main purpose is to win games. They don't care anything about the student. And so that was another reason why I decided to go to Virginia Union, because I was like, I'm not going to be a jock. I'm going to make sure I go to class. My academics were always important to me. And I'm going to hopefully help make a difference and show people that regardless of the fact that we are Black athletes, we can still get the classroom done. And I saw a lot of my peers fall victim to that. So moving forward, that was always my goal. I was going to make sure I stayed on the honor roll. My academics was important to me. And as a team captain, I encouraged my teammates to make sure that they were going to class also at Virginia Union University. And so fast forward, when you talk about what's happening today and how people really see us on the academic level, we have to make sure that it's important for our young people to go to class. I teach a course at Virginia Union University right now in the marketing department. And one of the things that I'm constantly stressing upon my young people is that you got to get the work. You're getting, let me break it down real quick. If it costs you, and let's take a PWI. If it costs you $60,000 a year to go to a PWI, right? And that's 4 years. You do the math, that's $240,000.
That's right.
And we're not even talking about the extra bonuses, from the uniforms to the traveling to the food. Let's start another $50,000 in there. That's $300,000. And when it's all said and done, you walk away with nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely.
That's unacceptable. I will always be committed to that. And even when I coached at Virginia Union, as a coach, my women's basketball team, my first couple of years, we had the highest GPA. Because I was committed. I was not going to let you come here, get this money, and not take advantage of it. Remember what they say, let basketball, use basketball, or whatever that sport is, to get you the degree that you have, and not let it use you.
Exactly.
And so that was always my mindset about, these athletes and how we move forward. And I've seen it, even at Virginia Union now, let's already say at a lot of colleges. Some of these players get away with not going to class and get their work done, and then they walk away with what? You can't speak. You know you don't have the
can't get a
skill set.
job.
You can't
You're
get
not qualified to
right.
do
You're not
anything.
qualified. You get mad. You get upset. I mean, whose fault is that? And so I constantly challenge not only my players, you know, when I was coaching at the collegiate level, but now also as an adjunct professor.
Coach, I just want to ask you, did those twins play for you?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
was at Virginia Union from 2010 to 2015.
Okay, because I remember some amazing these twins that came there. I can't remember their names.
Was that Nadine and Adelma?
I believe so.
Or maybe you're talking about the guards, where they post clear the guards.
guards.
Yeah, the guards. Right. I can't remember their names, but
one
Virginia
was an
Union
amazing score, and the other one was, you know, sort of player. But when one went down, the other one stepped it up. You know, that was amazing.
Okay, but it depends on what time you're talking about. Are you talking about recently?
Pretty recent, yeah.
Okay, that was with Ann Gilbert, when Ann Gilbert preceded me.
Oh, okay.
She had those two twins that came out of Winston-Salem.
Right.
And then when she left, one of them ended up finishing, did a great job at, that was Sharika.
Yeah.
She did a great job at A&T. And then her sister, Shamika, she ended up going through to, I think she went to the University of Charleston or something, but that was the first time that they had separated. I was actually teaching a course and I had Shamika and not Sharika, not the leading scorer. Yeah. But Virginia Union has had some twins on the women's basketball team, so that's why I was asking. And I've followed my alma mater since I graduated, going to the games, you know, supporting everybody, the coaches and things like that.
Let me ask you about the WABA and the opportunity it gives. I was looking at your roster and I see one of the players, I see one of the players, but anyway, and she lists Hampton High School as her high school now.
Amaya.
Amaya, is that, can you come directly from high school and go to the WNBA, or she just chose to mention her high school as opposed to her coming out of a university?
No, that's an excellent question. So as long as because we don't pay them, now some of them get stipends, so they can still play because they haven't violated their amateurism status.
Okay.
So she's that young lady was a fireball. She's actually now at the apprentice school. She ended up getting a scholarship at the end of our season. So she's playing Amaya Ray. She's playing with the apprentice school as we speak.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, seeing a high school player with this semi-pro team. I was just wondering about that.
I think she was at least 2 years removed from high school when she joined our team. And our goal was, I had spoken to her about getting her a look at a few colleges, and she really wanted to stay close to home because of her situation. So apprentice school came along and offered her a scholarship. She was actually already working there at the apprentice school, which I think is a phenomenal idea. I like that concept. I really do. Because you can go there and work, get paid, and play your sport.
Exactly.
I mean, if somebody should have told me, I probably would still go to Virginia Union. But and when you walk away, you actually have a trade that you're certified in.
Exactly.
So you will never be without employment, right?
Barvenia,
Yes,
West Levan would like to know what your thoughts are about college athletes getting paid to play.
Yeah, the NIL. I love it. I wish they had it when I was there. And we talked about that. It's interesting. I don't know that we had a name for it at the time I was in college, but we used to always say, shoot, they should be paying us. I don't know why they're getting all the money. And you're just having that little side conversation about what's going on. And then 30 years later, 40 years, I can't believe it. And we'll be at our 40th anniversary of winning the NCAA title come April of 2023, right? And so fast forward today, I really think they should. But it has to be structured, because there's a lot of different aspects of that. And so from the player standpoint, absolutely. But when you talk about how do you handle that? How do you strategically put that in place where you're not causing some dissension among the players? You're not causing, a confusion, strife. There's a lot of things psychologically and mentally that you have to think about when you're putting that in place. And so I think that adds another layer to the issue about how do you strategically put that in place? I don't have the answers, but I know that should be like, for example, if you do offer that to a student athlete, I think there has to be some type of account, set up where that once they graduate, these funds are set aside for them, that they get it and it's invested properly.
Barvenia, when you mentioned that, I wish that there was a class offered at each university for these athletes, how to manage their money.
Yes.
You get so many of them to get so much money so fast, and by the time the end of their career, they have nothing to show for it.
Okay, so the mindset. Remember, I talked about it again, mindset. So my major was in accounting. So I have 21 years in financial services. So I do understand the importance of managing your money. And like you said, Leah, it should really start in high school. They started having these financial literacy courses, and programs for these young people. But again, as you said, it's got to be a focus with the athletes. It's got to be mandatory. When you go on to college and you're going to play a sport, especially at the professional level, it needs to be mandated. Now, let me say, I'm sure the NBA and the WNBA, I don't know about the NFL, but I know they have those type of programs in place. So when the athlete gets there, they have to go through that. Now, whether or not they take advantage of it, that they're really, utilize it and apply it accordingly. A lot of times those individuals get those agents and they don't have good guidance. And before you know it, like you said, they start with a whole lot, and then at the end of their career, they have nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Because they haven't learned how to manage their money, just basic management, money management skills, like setting up a budget, right? Like making sure you're investing and not just being out there being foolish, because all of a sudden you got all this money. And you don't know how to manage it. I know my mom always said, if you can't manage $50, you sure enough can't manage 500.
You are so correct, and we see it all through history over the decades. These players make all these millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're broke, and you see them living on Skid Row. But
and you know what? Real quick, to your point, they know that. That's my own. That's on my own personal opinion. They know that when they bring those young men in there, for the most part, not the women, young men, and they're paying them these large salaries, and they already know their mindset. Because if you haven't had it, they know they're going to be, go out there, be lavish and spend all that money. And where are they spending the money? Not in our community.
Not in our community.
So it's not coming back 4 and 5 times. They know it's going to get spit right back out of that other community where it's not even a loss to them.
Yeah, they spend the money and they really have no assets to gain when they left. They may walk out the door with a gold chain and a Rolex watch and no job, no education, can't speak, and I guess they can run for Senate in Georgia, I guess.
That was not, you're not gonna let that one go. I'm not mad at you. But and you look at how close he got to them. Like, okay, really?
Leave it to my colonel. Leave it to my colonel. He's gonna take us there.
He slid that in there, and appropriately.
That was a pretty slide into home base.
I love it. I love it. Slide safe.
But as I get back to reality here, and we'll go down this road, but pay equity for women in women's sports is something that we have to address sooner or later. And if you were the queen for the day, and you could sit there with the WNBA, the Soccer Association, and all the other women associations, what would you do to set out a program to where you can combine through strength so that you can get some pay equity with these men that are just getting gobs of $50 million a year walking the street and to sit on the bench?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Wow, I think I'm gonna have to write that down and think about that and put that out into the universe. So that might just happen. We never know. Be mindful of what you ask for, because you just might get it, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
So if I was queen for a day, matter of fact, I am a queen. So I'm a Miss Virginia Union University. So I am a queen. So I get a chance to wave my magic wand.
Yes.
What I would do is that I would start right with the women that own their own businesses. Those women that have these multi-level businesses, I would go to them first because we have to support each other.
Exactly.
And what I found over time, and I've asked women just in general, like, why you don't come to the WNBA games or, or to the women's collegiate games? And most of them say they don't have a real answer. It's just tradition that they go to these men's games, right? And then they might have their own ulterior motive why they go into the NBA games, But we have to first of all step back and go like, women, let's support women because there's enough money out there for women to support each other. And then my next step would be going to the relatives of these WNBA players, and I would talk to them. And what I mean by that, if you think about a young man who's playing in the league, 7 times out of 10 they're married, they've got daughters, right? They've got sisters, they've got cousins. So my question would be like, okay, why aren't you supporting them? Just give me a reason why you're not supporting them, because there's no reason you wouldn't. Because what you're saying to me is that even though this is your wife, this is your daughter, they don't hold the same weight as you do. And so to me, that's a disparity, because what you're saying is that you don't value me. Because if you valued me, then what you would do, you would feel that I'm worthy to get as much money as my counterparts are getting. So men have to take a step back as well and say, I've got to step up my game and I got to support the female. I got to support my daughter. I got to support. I mean, think about it. Your daughter goes to play in the WNBA. You okay with her making $150,000 when you know you made $9.5 million?
How about that?
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't add up. So we got to have those conversations, and we got to bring it to the forefront and make them pause and go like, oh, you're right. That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I want to? Do I still want to keep my women submissive or a subservient position? I'm not sure. But to me, again, it's room for talk for going again. And to bring it to a close, I'm going to go to the professional women that own these multi-level businesses, and I'm going to ask them to support the women. And then I'll go to the NBA and I'll talk to, those players and have that conversation. So that's what I would do.
So imagine, if you will, so you take that plan that you have and just not the CEOs, and go also to the executives that work in these corporations.
Right.
Saying, why not, because you have an advertising budget, start advertising in the WNBA and all the women's sports. That's where the real money comes down. And then as for the players, and this could be on the men's side too, is we're going to set, I got a contract of $30 million. I'll say that. I'm playing basketball. I am going to take $10 million of that, and I'm going to set it aside in a fund with the rest of, with 30 other players that's got similar contracts. At the end of our playing days, we're going to have enough money, theoretically, to leverage to buy us a team, to get into ownership. You could do that in the same thing in the women's side. So I can look at the books and see and get a piece of that money. Because ownership is the key. What do you think? What say you about that?
I love that. I love that plan. And let me also add to that, Colonel, it's all about the marketing. And I teach marketing, and it's just unfortunate that the women don't get the same promotion or public relations exposure that the NBA is doing and NFL. Like sometimes I turn on TV and I'm going like, that game happened 30 years ago. Why are we running that game? Why aren't we playing a women's basketball game? Why are we playing the WNBA? And then we talk about these contracts. As you mentioned, let's talk about shoe contracts. Now, I just found out that Lisa Leslie's shoe is out on the market. Now, how many people is going to go buy Lisa Leslie's shoes, et cetera? And then you talk about that budget that you set aside, this, I think you said like this $10 million budget you set aside, and how we're going to strategically disperse that to these players. Is that what you were saying?
Well, we put the players put it into the fund to where we're going to build up capital so we can buy a team.
Oh, ownership is definitely key. But ownership buying one team, I don't know that that's gonna.
Well, not that, because collectively we could buy many teams, but we want start somewhere, because right now, all they're doing is they're just blowing it on a Rolex.
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, you raise a very good point. I mean, and now, how do we have those conversations at the next level? And what we see when we talk about value, what's the value they're going to get out of it? Because everybody wants something out of it. So I don't mind giving you, that amount of money, but there's got to be some value. What am I getting in return for that? And I feel like at the NBA, the return is because they've got the shoe deals, they've got the TV rights. They've got all those individuals that's willing to invest in it, because at the end of the day, there's a return on their investment.
Yes.
So when we talk about, doing it on the women's side, we got to say, what is the value? They're going to say, what are we getting out of this? So it has to be a return on their investment. And initially, it's going to be money. Let's be real. It's going to be money. And so I like your thought. And even with our league, with the WABA, there's something that we can do on a higher level where we can start to have those conversations like I know I'm having as an owner, as I get out into the community and I'm talking to these potential sponsors about ownership. Like, how do you help invest into the community? You provide quality entertainment, because that's what our organization is designed to do, is to entertain individuals. And with the women's game, like last night, Don Staley, #1 and #2 went at it. And Don Staley came out on the other side. Great, congratulations, 76-71. And that in itself helps to add value to why you should invest in the into women's sports. Now think about the soccer team raised the roof and they got paid.
They surely
raised
did.
the roof, they got paid. So
They got paid.
They got paid.
Yeah.
What's the young lady's name? I always forget her name, but she's the wife of Sue Bird.
Yeah.
With an R.
Huh?
Yeah.
So with R, no, she look. See, that's what we have to have bold women that are not afraid to stand up and say, this is what we demand. And we demand it because we're putting it out the same type of, hard work, energy, just as much as our counterpart does. So on the WNBA side, maybe we got to have a little bit more muscle out there. People really demanding that this is what we're worth. But again, like I said, it's got to be a return on the investment. There's got to be some value added.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Coach Wooten and seeing that too, and seeing all that come to play helps those high school students have hope as far as they're playing, because there's a lot of talented high school girls out there playing now that need somewhere to go after their high school playing days that want to continue playing ball.
And that's why you have those other leagues, they quote unquote call it semi-pro, but that's why you have those other leagues, because you give the women an opportunity to continue playing at the next level. And then the other market is, of course, overseas. There's a lot of opportunities for the women to get contracts to go overseas, because just like the men, in most cases, when you talk about those ones further down the bench that's not getting paid the same amount as your top tier players, well, when they go overseas, they're better served by going overseas because they're making more money. And then again, there's a value.
And tax-free money.
And tax-free money. How about that? And tax-free money.
For sure.
So maybe I should take my team overseas. No.
Yes. No.
But Coach, with the time we have left, you are an accomplished published author as well, and we want to talk about some of the books you have published, and one in particular that I had an opportunity, you sent me. But you have the one book, Up and Running, and then The Journey Continues, and then you have this book. You can't see it as well, but anyway, this is a book, and I want you to talk about this, called The Legacy of the Crown. And it's talking about all the homecoming queens over the years from day one at Virginia Union University, and it all the way up till last year's homecoming queen, who's featured on the cover here, Ebony Giles, which I had an opportunity to interview last year, and she's from Hampton. She's from this area. And it's a great book, telling the story of the homecoming queens. And you were one of those queens in '83, I believe.
That is correct.
And when I talked to you last night, I said, how did you do all that? You have homecoming queen, basketball star, scholar, honor student, and all those things that are required of you on a campus or being a student, to also have the time to, and you had the pledge, and also have the time to to be a queen, the homecoming queen. And this book really puts it down and has different queens in there talking about their experiences. Talk about that book a little bit, and then talk about the books that you have published.
Well, first and foremost, it was definitely an honor to collaborate on this book, The Legacy of the Crown. And again, as I mentioned earlier in my conversation, no way I could have done all this at the PWI. I already know that. I just know that. I know I had the talent and the skill because I've always had that confidence and belief in myself. I got it from my mom, who transitioned about 2.5 years ago. But I was going to school for a purpose and for a reason, and basketball was just my end to get there. And so when Cherie Tilley, a former queen, thought about the project, she basically sent the information out to all of the queens that we can get in contact with. And then everyone that wanted to make the investment, they decided to collaborate on the project. Again, thankful to Cherie Tillery for having this thought process to chronicleize the queens of Virginia Union. And let me tell you, I enjoyed my queendom. I really did. I mean, I used my time wisely. As you all can see, every little inch that I had, I was always doing something, always being creative. But to be a queen of Virginia Union and to be a national championship a champion, that was just a feat that I will always remember. But as we talked about the book, we just talked about our time, and it was great to hear other people's stories. I love reading. I'm an avid reader. I read everybody's stories because I feel like we all have a story. Right. And it's solely up to us to tell their story. And I just felt very passionate that I need to tell my own story. I heard it over time when people are ghostwriting, somebody else is telling their story. I didn't say that. That's not what I said. And because, I was fortunate to have done some great things with my life, I was like, no, somebody's going to write a book, but it's going to be me. I'm going to write my book. I'm going to leave it behind. I'm going to leave it behind for my grandchildren because I do have 3 grandchildren. I'm going to leave it behind so they don't have to go searching like, who was this woman? No, she put it all down in writing. So to collaborate on this book and to make sure that all the queens were recognized in this book, Leah, I think I would encourage you to let the women know at Norfolk State, this would probably be a great project for you to do as well.
I listen, you got my mind moving, not only with Norfolk State, my mind is working now, okay?
And guess what? When I was, matter of fact, my senior year, the volleyball player, the Miss Virginia Union, your queen at the time was a volleyball player. And I won't forget her because she and I met. I was at a football game and she and I met. So that's how I remember that she was a queen. And matter of fact, at that time, Ebony used to put the HBCU queens in their magazines.
They did. That's right. That's right.
Did that, right? I still have my copy to this day. So I'm excited about that. And prior to this book, I decided to write my own personal book, my autobiography, Up and Running and the Journey Continues. And basically what my story is about, just to tell everyone that we all have greatness in us, and it's solely up to us to pursue it. It doesn't matter what age you are, right? It doesn't matter your background, where you come from. It's just a mindset of wanting to do great things with your life. And that was important to me by, my late mom, about just going out there and making a difference in my community, getting involved and helping others. And so basically that's what my book says. And it just tells you my journey and how I was able to overcome those obstacles. Because we all have obstacles.
That's right.
And it's just solely up to us to get over it. Like the next day. Okay, what's going on the next day? I know yesterday happened, they call that history, but on to the next, on to the next. And at the end of the day, did you leave the place better than you found it?
Exactly. And that's the most important question. Did you leave the place better than you found it? What did you?
We could complain about it, right? We could complain about it, we could talk about it, whatever. But I'm always thinking about these sayings or quotes. At the end of the day, either you're a part of the solution or you're part of the problem.
That's right.
So which one?
That's right.
You can complain, you can talk all you want to talk, blah 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 blah. I learned that also from Delta Sigma Theta. There were no excuses. I'm sure that helped me on my trajectory at Virginia Union, because it's like either we got it done or you didn't.
Right.
You can come to your big sisters and say, what? No. Y'all all got on the same black skirts. You better go find a black skirt. You got the same white shirts on, because we were above ground, right?
Yes.
We were. It's a different type of pledge now, system that they go through. But at that time, being a member of Delta Sigma Theta, there was no excuses. You got it done. And I learned from that. Yeah. So that's my book, and it's available. Both of the books are available on Amazon. And I'm basically using both of the books as a fundraiser, giving back to my women's professional basketball organization to
Very
build the
good.
funding.
Very good.
Yeah,
So
and I
I
would
definitely,
encourage, especially young girls in the high school level to get it. And maybe some schools need to add it to their
To the
library, things
library,
like that,
exactly.
especially with people trying to control what we read and what we, as far as our history. And this is just something women need to be encouraged by other women
Exactly.
and that have succeeded. And all these books are something that you can really pass down to our younger girls and all ages. It's encouraging, I think. And you told how you can get it. And one other thing I want you to say with the WABA, let people know what kind of links they can go to as far as sponsorships for that, because you know the money has to come from somewhere,
it
especially
does.
at the level that you are in order to build to a certain level that you want to be. So give us some links and talk about the sponsorships that
You
you're
know, I'm gonna say this real quick. I got approached to start my own team about 3 times. And the third time I was like, okay, I must be made for this. This is because I love it. I do it for a passion. I do it for a reason to help the women, as you all have said before, those that when they finish their collegiate career, where do you go now, right? Because I was in their shoes and I truly understand that. So we have our own website, and you can go to www.rvaroadrunners.com, and all the information about our team. We've even got information about our league. We've got the sponsorship packages on there as well. You can go ahead and send in your contact information, because our goal right now, I'm excited to say that last year, the way I ran my organization is that the women didn't have to pay for anything. We took care of all their transportation. I rented vans, right? I got people to donate money for food. We paid them a stipend for home games. We suited them in their uniforms and their gear. We rented the gyms. Matter of fact, I was so excited last year. First year, we was right about 100 fans per game. And my second year, we bumped it up to about 125, where we talk about returning fans. And so this last game that we had, I was so proud of us. And what we did was we involved the community. So we had Public Safety Day. We had Sheriff Antoinette Irvin, who's a VUU grad. And we had Sheriff Alicia Gregory, that's in Henrico County. We had the ambulance. We had all the public safety workers. And what we did was we recognized them at halftime. So we got them swag bags, we gave around balls. We brought the girls basketball, a couple of high school teams. Well, they were actually high school and middle school. We brought them in and we recognized them. So we definitely about the community. We go out, we serve, we give back to our community. Matter of fact, last night, we sponsored a family and we all chipped in and we went in and blessed them with some food, because the father had lost his 2-year-old son and the wife to a car accident.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so we do that every year. That's our giving back to the community. And right now we get ready to do a shoe drive. So again, we need your support. Call us up, go to our website. You can also go to the WABA, the Women's American Basketball Association, and find out about our league. We get started July 1, and we're right here in the Richmond, Virginia area, and we're also looking for players as well.
Okay, and give that site again.
The site for us is www.rvaroadrunners.com. All of our sponsorship information and all our information about our league and our team is on that site. And then if you want to know more about the league, then you can go to the Women's American Basketball Association. You can also go back to our YouTube. We have a YouTube channel too, so you can go back and watch some of our games from last year.
Okay, very good, very good.
Awesome.
Okay. We're just about at the end, and we really appreciate it. And of course, we want to have you back because we want to track the WABA and see how they're doing it. And I'll be looking to see the growth that that continues to happen with your team and the league in general. So right now, co-host, if you want to have any last statements, and then
James, I'm always thinking about remote. And maybe one day we can go to a game and we can broadcast from the game so that people can see the road runners in action. So Barvenia, I want to thank you so very much. It has been a pleasure meeting you on this morning. I love your energy. You just give it all out here to us. And I'm sure you give it to your team as well. And I just want to thank you for all that you do and all that you continue to do, and continue as you give back to the community. As you give back to the community, it's going to make your business just grow. It's just going to explode. And I'm claiming it right now. It's just going to explode out of the seams. And you are going to have a blessed and successful year. And hopefully we will have an opportunity to come in and see your girls at work, your ladies at work. And so once again, I want to thank you so very much for coming on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. It's been a very enlightening moment. Thank you so very much. Colonel?
And I'll go next. And then, you know, it has been an honor listening to you. And when I reflect back to it, the first thing, and I'll describe you is a outstanding role model and leadership personified for our community, just not for what you're doing there with your team, but for our community. And one of the things too is we have to put things on paper, and that you've written the 2 books. And we're living in a society where the Confederates want to erase our history. And since you're in Richmond, you know, you have that Confederate governor up there wants to change the educational system and everything. I would tell you one person that won't read the book is down there in Georgia running for the Senate because he can't
read it. He can't read it, Colonel.
Can't read.
Can't read.
And you know, he's running on the Confederate side. So I just had to add that one in there. But thanks for coming on in. Yeah, I'm hard on it. I just can't.
That's fine. You know, it's an honor. I always count on all joy. I don't take this for granted. It's just an opportunity just to share with people. And at the end of the day, like you said, I'm just an encourager. I want everybody to be successful. I really do. I just feel like we all got our own talents and our own gifts, and it's solely up to us to pursue it. And Leah, Colonel, and Slim, I want to thank you all so much for even, you know, welcoming to your call and being able to share my story. And Slim, I already heard about your days of playing the basketball, being a basketball player. Yes, I did the bench. He said he wore it well. He did it well. But he did it well. He did it well. He was dedicated.
He was a great bench setter. You know, Martin Luther King said, be the best at whatever you do.
And 6'5", that's right, at 6'5", standing there and said, okay, I'm just gonna hold up the banner. I'm gonna hold up the banner right here. And you absolutely right. Dr. King said that. Whatever I'm gonna do
it well. Do it well.
Yeah. So thank you all so much.
Before you go, Barvenia Wooten. Patsy wanted us to repeat your name. It's Barvenia Wooten, Barvenia Wooten, Wooten. Yes. And her team is the RVA Roadrunners. The RVA Roadrunners. You got that, Patsy? Okay.
Well, that's the link, but the team is actually the Richmond Roadrunners.
The Richmond Roadrunners. Okay, the Richmond Roadrunners.
Yes.
Okay.
I just like to say, you know, it was a pleasure for me to meet you, and you know what we say, VUU for life. And now that I met you, you know, we're friends, we're connected for life. And hopefully one time at some point you can bring your team down here for an expedition game, something like that, and we can invite all the high school girl players to the team, to the game. You know. So you can get the exposure down here in Hampton Roads, and then more people will follow or support the Richmond team as their team, you know, just like we support a lot of the football teams and things like that. So
yeah, let me say quickly, Jasmine Young is the assistant coach at Norfolk State. She was she was my first, well, not my first assistant coach, but I hired her at Virginia Union. And she played for me at Virginia Union. So she's now down there. I'm trying to remember the women's basketball coach name is slipping my mind, but they did a phenomenal job last year, Leah. So I keep up with the green and the gold. Behold, the green and gold. Right. But that's all right. The still gray and the maroon. We always gonna be in the house.
and we accept your gray and maroon because our high school is maroon and gray. So
that's right.
That's right. So we accept that maroon and steel. Okay.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you.
And I'll end this by saying, for real, the maroon and steel.
For real, the maroon and steel.
And steel. All right. Thank you very much. And we appreciate all the people watching and continue to watch Portsmouth Coffee Talk as we won't be here this Thursday because we'll be full of turkey. But
I'm vegetarian. I'm gonna let y'all have all the birds and turkey.
oh yeah,
Leave the meat alone.
well that's more for us.
Leave those turkeys alone. They trying to live a life. Everybody want to cut the necks
They're
off.
trying to survive as well, you know, looking for that pardon from the president. But anyway, thanks again, and
Okay.
Coach, I'll be in touch, and we'll stay
Okay.
in touch, and we're
Thank
working on that
All right.
expedition game or something like that. And thanks again, everybody. Take care. And Portsmouth
Okay.
Coffee Talk is here for our voice
Our community.
In our future.
and our
All
future.
right now. I see
And
you
Coach,
got your cup
we
there.
salute you. Thank
Well,
you.
we salute you.
Yes.
We
Thank
salute
you.
you, Coach.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
great day,
great day.
everybody. And a great week. And happy
too.
Thanksgiving to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving to all of those out there listening.
Oh,
Yeah.
Leah, and happy belated birthday to you. You slipped a birthday in there on this.
Oh,
Thank you so very much. Thank
the
you.
scorpion.
Yes, Scorpion, all the way. All the way.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you
All right,
so
Rachel.
much. We will end this on live stream, and we will end here